So as some of you may know, I recently decided to pick up an iPad Pro for review, and I've really been enjoying it. In fact, I rearranged my daily workflow, then re-centralized it around the iPad. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about that, what I've done to make it more functional, and my plans for the future of this device. So the first step of my workflow takes place the night before, in which I use the Notes app to write my abstract objectives for the next day. Then using the Reminders app, I like to create a more detailed breakdown to-do list. As some of you may know, when I was using my phone, I actually used Todoist or Productive, but because of iPadOS displaying the reminders on the homepage of the iPad Pro, I found that the benefit of being able to always see the checklist massively outweighed losing the features of the apps. After this, I wake up using the bedtime feature again on the iPad and get my day started. I've actually started using the iPad Pro to listen to music while I make my morning cup of coffee because I found the 4-speaker setup is more than enough for casual listening needs. Recently, I've been listening to How to Leave Town by Car Seat Headrest again. Just when pour over coffee couldn't get more hipster. And while it can be a little distracting, it's always nice to be able to listen to music when I'm making my coffee. After this and some other tasks that don't involve the iPad, I usually get down to work. Most days I started by writing scripts. Now often I'll get a little bit done first thing before I make my first cup of coffee, but I usually get the bulk of it done at this point. For this, I like to use the Notes app, which I have actually been using for a while now, purely because it syncs up so well with my other devices. I would typically use my MacBook for this in the past, but nowadays, as I said, I'm bringing everything to the iPad, and so I've been using the iPad, obviously, in conjunction with the Magic Keyboard that I got free with my iMac. Honestly, I've really been enjoying this workflow. The keyboard is small enough not to cause any problems with portability, and the workflow increase compared to just typing on the iPad screen is actually super nice. Now, I know I could be using the actual Magic Keyboard, but didn't get the Magic Keyboard for free. Did get the other Magic Keyboard for free, so we're gonna work with it, maybe in the future. Something I am, however, considering is maybe a folding case with a kickstand, because while I am mostly okay with balancing on other things, I would prefer it if it was a little bit more stable. Usually, after this, I'll have a break. I think that it's important to take regular breaks when you're working, as it means when you are working, you're more productive, and something else I've found that works well with this is the Pomodoro Method. This basically involves working for 25 minutes, then having a 5-minute break, and then doing this on and off for an allocated period of time, or until the task is done. The theory goes that it's easier to focus for a small amount of time with a reasonable goal in mind, and honestly, I found this to work great. During this break, I'll usually consume some type of media, whether that be watching YouTube videos, which I do on the iPad, or checking Twitter, which I do on my phone. Either way, this is some of my dedicated media time. After this, I'll often get on with some filming. Now, depending on what type of video I'm making, will depend on whether this is B-roll or a talking head section. For the sake of the video, we're going to be covering both. So first off, we have the talking head section. For this, I'll essentially use the iPad as a teleprompter. I'll use my previously written script in the Notes app. This can typically take around an hour depending on the type of video, so it is nice to be looking at a nice big screen that doesn't strain my eyes. Overall, when shooting video, the iPad Pro makes a pretty decent digital assistant. If this is a B-roll shoot, however, I'll often create a shot list in the Reminders app so I can make sure that I have enough shots when it comes down to the edit, and that I don't accidentally line up any shots that might look bad. Typically, I will also create another note with information about all the different scenes, gear I'll need, actions I might need to make. It all gets written down, and while it can suck initially, the time saving later on is much appreciated. For more complex shots, I'll also sketch out a rough plan or storyboard to make sure that I can visualize it before I attempt it, so I know how many steps I'm gonna need to go through to get that shot. For this, I use Adobe Draw, and I also like to use this app for my scene planning. When I'm planning my previously mentioned scenes, I found that creating color palettes can help me make sure that my shots look more aesthetically pleasing. And with Adobe Draw on the iPad, this is actually easier than ever because it has this built in as a feature. Moving on to editing, typically I don't use the iPad for much other than background media, because typically when I'm cutting talking head sections or voiceovers that don't require critical listening, often I like to have a documentary on in the background. I found that it keeps me focused for longer and helps me get through usually my least favorite part of the editing process. After this, we got the main editing section, which is B-roll cutting and effects, all that good stuff. And for this, I don't really use the iPad at all. This stage is almost exclusively done on my computer, but occasionally I might use the iPad for some music. Once that main edit is done, I'll use the iPad to draw a sketch of what I think the thumbnail should be. Doing this helps me to create a clear plan of what I think the thumbnail should look like, and this actually means I waste less time trying out shots, as it means I can simply just sketch concepts in Adobe Draw. And finally, once again, I'll write my to-do list for the next day, set my reminders, then put it on charge. In fact, that's another thing that I really like about the iPad Pro. I really like how well it holds charge. I've never had to plug it in during the day so far, and as I am essentially using this as a digital assistant, this is an incredibly helpful factor. After all my work's done, I usually either like to watch some YouTube videos on Netflix, occasionally play some games, or even just do some sketching. That said, I've honestly found the iPad Pro to be a phenomenal media media consumption device. I've had no problems using this as a media center. So there we have it, a productive day with the iPad Pro. I am still working on this system, refining it, trying out different apps, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, but hopefully this is a system I can stick to. Because firstly, it's much more centralized than my previous system, and as a digital minimalist, I love that. And secondly, it's a lot more intuitive. I like being able to use a touchscreen. And for a while, I never thought this was a big issue. I have grown to thoroughly appreciate it. It's a whole new way of interacting with my device. But honestly, it's more like interacting with a laptop than it is a phone. So yeah, I'm looking forward to improving this system and then hopefully keeping it as my main workflow in the future. All right, guys, so that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Remember to like the video if you want to see more content like this and smash that subscribe button. I'm done for now, and I will see you guys in the next one.